We will learn more from each other.
Yeah. It will be a private section.
Yes.
Between editors, past editors, editors of national review, of international review. So we will exchange our ideas and strategies.
Hello.
Buonasera.
Andrea.
There's a lot of so is there a closed door between is it a closed door between the stations?
Are there people coming? No. Okay. Meno male che c'ho il mio.
Aspetta che prendo gli occhiali perché
Prendi gli occhiali.
spesso ne ho bisogno.
Scusa? Ok. Oh, here, there are some water. Do you want sparkling water? It doesn't matter. Eduardo, sparkling or plain? Okay.
But if you don't want sparkling, I can see.
There are another sparkling water there. I don't know if you want some water.
No, it's fine.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this roundtable titled, "It is Worth Publishing in a National Review, Comparing Experience in Regional Science." This roundtable focuses on the role that national journals may play in promoting the development of regional science in both national and international context. The starting point is the experience of the Italian Journal of Regional Science, which is the flagship journal of the Italian section of the Regional Science Association. The first issue of Scienze Regionali was published in 2002. So, after 20 years, we felt the need to stop a bit and to reflect on what has been done in the past and to analyze the challenges that we will face in the future. This roundtable is organized as follows. First, we will start with a short presentation of the experience of the Italian Journal of Regional Science in the last 20 years. And we will analyze the topics that have been most published, the authors, the number of authors, the number of citations, and things like that. Then we will ask our guests to share with us the experience of the reviews they are managing or they have managed in the past. We have other editors in the floors of both national and international journals, so I think that the debate could be fruitful, and our final goal is indeed to understand whether we face a similar challenge and which kind of strategy can be implemented in order to face these challenges. Let me now briefly introduce our guest. To my right, we have first Marco Mariani, who is a co-editor of Scienze Regionali and who will present the experience of our journal. Then we have Daniela Constantin, the editor-in-chief of the Romanian Journal of Regional Science. Then Vicente Royuela, editor-in-chief of the Journal of Regional Research, that is the journal of the Spanish section of the Regional Science Association International, most known as, tell you in Spanish,
Investigaciones regionales.
Thank you, Vicente. Thank you. On my left, Michaela Backman, editor-in-chief of the Review of Regional Research, that is the flagship journal of the German-speaking section of the Regional Science Association International. And last but not least, Eduardo Haddad, editor of the Brazilian Review of the Regional Studies and president of the Regional Science Association International, which collect all of these national sections. Thank you, Eduardo, for being here. I thank them all for accepting our invitation and for wanting to share with us their editorial strategies and thought on the future of National Journal of Regional Science. Okay, now I give the floor to Marco, who will present the history of Scienze Regionali. We have a problem with the screen, sorry.
So while we are waiting some of the slides, okay, we can start. So as Laura just said, so the journal is 20 years old now. Okay, it was founded in 2001 and published its first article in 2002. So the first publisher we had was Franco Angeli, which is an Italian publisher. Under this publisher, the journal was indexed in Scopus in 2012, and this was a first, This was a good achievement for a journal. In fact, a few years later, in 2016, Grazie. 2 years later, in 2007, a couple of years later, the journal switched to a new publisher, which is still Italian, Il Mulino, but which has a higher reputation, at least in our country, than the previous one. Under this publisher, we have started a few years ago the procedure for being indexed in the Emerging Sources Citation Index and in the Web of Science. And this process is underway, actually. You can see here very few descriptive statistics of our cumulative activity from the foundation up to the end of 2001. We have published more than 500 pieces up to 2001. Now there are a little more. And most of them are articles, and there is a share of notes. Okay, so articles, you all know what they are. Notes used to be, because they were terminated last year, shorter articles where an author discussed his opinion, her opinion, about a subject of current debate or regulation debate and so more contemporary things, which they're now not published anymore, but they are not out of our association. If you were here yesterday with Roberta and the editors of all the products of our association, they have their own seat in another editorial product of AISRe. So the share of articles, anyway, have grown over the years, and there have always been articles there, not only notes, but towards the end of the observation periods, articles were really the vast majority of all the published materials by our journal. Okay. There are two types of slots, of course, where articles may be published: ordinary slot and special issue slots, okay? Of all the publications, okay, slots, those allocated to special issues amount to 45%, and those allocated to articles written in English amount to 56%. So there is a slight majority of articles in English in a journal. These articles in English are most of the times, but not always, authored by Italian authors. And you will understand more why at the end of the presentation, where we will talk about the diffusion of the journal. But we have a 20% of pieces, whether signed by foreign-only authors or by Italian and foreign collaborating authors. So we are trying to go international, but we are still rooted, okay, in our regional science national community. You can see here at a glance on some recent editorial statistics, which gives you an idea of the process the editorial process at Scienze Regionali. So we have an initial desk reject rate of about 40%, which is, of course, not the desk reject rate of very well-established international journals. The fact is that we do receive submissions with ordinary submission or special issues, but the amount of submission leads us to try to invest also in those marginal papers, which at a first look, you aren't sure, okay, that they completely fulfill the quality standard, but you see some potential in them. And so you try to invest in this paper and work all together with the rest of the editorial board to try to make this paper better, and in the hope that they will reach a level that allows their publication, okay, in terms of quality. After the first round of review, which lasts usually 1.5 months, we have a further desk reject rate of 11%, a reject rate of 11%. Those who survive this process usually engage in this interplay between editors, authors, and referees also, aimed at those we think that potentially makes sense, also our effort, okay, not only the author's one, at improvement. The average days to accept are not few, okay? We have more than 200 days to accept. And this really reflects this process I was describing right now, where the authors are given usually 4 months for major revision, 2 months for minor revision. They have to work, then you have to engage the referees again. So you know, but this is to justify why, even if we are, let's say, a smaller journal than some of those you represent in the audience, but it takes some time. So I will now give you an idea of the topics covered by the journal from its foundation. With Laura, we performed, so the topics are all those of regional science, as you can figure out. But with Laura, we analyzed the text of the titles and keywords of all the articles that were published from the foundation, and notes also. I will emphasize less notes. You can see from this initial text mining analysis, which are the most frequent words, the top 30 of monograms in our articles, which gives you a first impression about what the topics are. And you can see also between among the first top 30 topics, you have a lot of areas of regional science represented. This is to testify that we are really a multidisciplinary journal. So if you look at the top position, you have regions, of course, but urban also, policies, development, cities, planning, and so on, territories. But we can also have a look at bigrams, that is couple of words, which give you perhaps a stronger impression of the concepts. And then we have smart specialization, development rights, which is a planning issue, for instance. Not innovation policy, okay, regional policy, local development, and so on. And you can have a look there. So there is a lot of diversity in themes covered. Based on this textual material, we have also performed some topic analysis to identify what the main topics covered are and how they have evolved over time in these 20 years, okay? The topic analysis, you know, is a text mining technique which is conducted here using the so-called latent Dirichlet allocation. So this process, I won't describe it in detail, okay, but it's like a cluster analysis. We can figure out we have a certain desired number of latent topics, and based on word co-occurrences, okay, authors tend to use some words together and groups of words together. It ultimately brings to assigning for each article, to each article, a topic-specific membership probability. So each article may be member of any topic, but with a certain probability. You can see here the result. So the label, we have decided those labels. So we have 15 topics, the 5 most frequent words, likely words in these topics, and based on these words and article titles that mostly are likely to fall under that topic, we assign the labels. So we have environment and sustainability, endowment for growth, industrial district, which used to be more in the past and today important in the Italian debate, smart specialization, regional macroeconomics, innovation, urban planning, program evaluation, land use and mobility, residential choice, and so on. Spatial analysis, transports, and also reflection on regional science. That is issues where scholars, a more academic, activity about speculating activity about the future of our area of research and activity and trajectories and so on. This is the evolution of these topics over time. So you can see they are quite stable, but there are some that are a little declining, some have a momentum and then decline, and some other that are growing over time, okay? So in the end, we also, from 2012 onwards, since we are indexing Scopus, we can also carry out some citation analysis to understand what kind of products are more likely to attract attention by other scholars, okay? This is the cumulative of citations over time. 1,300 citation from 2012. We don't know about the earlier period because we were not indexed, and an age index equal to 15. This tells you about the ranking of the journal. We are quite well placed in Italy, where we are first or at least second in many subject disciplines, subject areas. Of course, on an international scale, our ranking is not so excellent as in Italy, so we have more competition, also from your journals. And, but it's not bad. I mean, so we are sometimes, especially in urban studies, we are always either in the second, the upper or the second upper quartiles. We are improving also in other areas. These are the most similar journals, no surprises, based on the percentage of reference sources in common cited. So we are very similar to papers in regional science, and this is also not a surprise because Roberta Capello used to be the editor of a journal up to a couple of years ago, and but also to Growth and Change, Regional Studies, and some other journals. I will be very fast here, so you can see here where you can see median and mean of citation depending on the type of article compared, that on average, let's say, we get more citation from special issues and article in English. So this motivates us to conduct a more rigorous analysis on these citation issues, which I will show in a minute. So we need to have a model we wished, okay, to have a model for predicting citation counts. Okay, this model, I will go quick on these methodological issues, is a negative binomial regression model. And this model to account for two types of things. On the one hand, some things, some aspects, okay, of the article that we as editorial board may have an influence on. Okay, we may say, send us an article written in English and not in Italian. We might say, we want only English, okay? We may say, we may encourage special issues, for example, rather than ordinary submissions. That's what we can do, actually, and also, of course, manage the whole process. What we cannot always control is intrinsic quality of the piece, the author reputation, okay, which are also aspects which are not under our management, which are hard to measure. This is why we call them unobserved characteristics, but do influence the citation count, as we will see in a minute. We need a multi-level model. This multi-level is a model composed of two parts, a fixed part, which is made of the coefficient of the variables under control, and random parts, okay, which are random intercepts and slopes, okay, which absorb the variance due to unobserved heterogeneity. So these are the variables in the fixed part: special issue, yes, no; English, yes, no; published within publication time within a given year. First issue, we have 3 issues per year, okay? Sometimes we publish additional ones, but 3 moments in the year where we go out with our issues. And then years elapsed from publication, also squared and so on. And then we have this random intercept, which express, for example, that the article published by one of you, which is very famous, okay, might differ in the intercept, okay, might be up, might have an article-specific higher intercept than the average, okay, and another one might have a lower than average model intercept. We also have a random slope for the special issue, meaning that some articles may be more fruitful, okay, for unobservable reasons if published in special issues. Anyway, this is to have a proper model fit based on likelihood checks and so on. Anyway, these are the results. They are not very interesting read this way, but we can do prediction. That is what we want to do. First, focus on the right figure. The right figure reports predicted citations for different types of articles. For example, marginal, that is the total of citations that can be predicted by activating both the observed characteristics and the unobservable article author contribution components, okay? So you can see that, for example, the upper one is an article published in English in a special issue. They all have a peak, let's say, between 2 and 3 years, but this peak is much higher for articles published in special issues and higher for articles published in English rather than in Italian. So on the left, in the left figure, you can see what the prediction could be if we eliminate, okay, the author contribution. So from just, let's say, from choosing to receive submission only in English or in special issue and so on. And of course, this accounts only for half of the citation. So the authors are very important, of course, for a journal. This testifies this known truth. These are the journals citing us. We have, let's say, 10% self-citation. This is a very small minority, but we have a very wide variety of journals citing us, each one for its share, okay? Including some of the flagship journals of our community, peers, and so on. So just the last word on circulation and accessibility. So we have an Italian publisher. So we have 53 academic institutions who have subscribed our journal in Italy, but only 3 abroad. So our point is, so we want to go international, but this can be a constraint somehow. We are not really accessible from abroad. Of course, our article can be downloaded on a pay-per-view basis from the website, but this occurs only 30 times per year. So it doesn't really change the situation. So some reflection to launch the discussion. With current publisher, we are able to reach a potentially large Italian-speaking audience, but not really the international readership. Should we move, or should national journal, does it make sense that national journals move to international publishers? Switch, does it make sense that they switch an access online to reach to improve their accessibility? Alternative, okay? Although most articles are published in English, the target readership, I said, is still largely Italian speaking. Is that a good or a bad thing? So we are trying to go international, but we are the identity journal of this community, Italian community. What are, in your opinion, some viable development paths for a national journal? So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco. I think you can leave the slide with the research question. I would like first to give the floor to Eduardo because he has a formal presentation, and I think it's not necessary to summarize the main result. I think that this analysis corroborates the strategy that we decided to follow in this recent year, that is to publish only scientific article and not notes and debate, and to promote the publication of articles written in English, because this increase the potentiality for citation also abroad, and also to invite and to promote the special issue. So this explains for the audience, of course, what we have decided to do. Then I will ask our guest to tell us whether they face similar problems and how they decided to face these issues. Please, Eduardo.
Hello, is it working? Yes, okay. So, good afternoon. Actually, I'm not the editor, I'm a member of the editorial board, so I asked the editor Alexandre Porsi to help me with this presentation. He's shared some material that I'm going to talk to discuss with you. Actually, it's important for us to understand the scientific context where we are in Brazil. So it's a country from the global south that it's far away from the scientific core. Takes 10 hours to reach the US, 12 hours to reach the main European cities. And there is also a language issue. Brazil is a very Portuguese-oriented, we find a very Portuguese-oriented scientific community. It's very hard for you to find schools that teach in English. So it's even hard for us to attract scholars from other Latin American countries because everything is taught and discussed in Portuguese. So there's also this language issue. In addition to that, it's a very heterogeneous country, very unequal. If you take the institutional framework, I'm not talking about scientific institutions, mainly universities, you find a handful of universities that play the same league as you're playing, but most of them, they play a different league, right? Play a local league. I'm sharing this study. I'm from economics. 5 years ago, we put together a very detailed study on the faculty that is involved in graduate programs, PhD programs in economics in Brazil, to try to see how they perform in terms of scientific, let's say, impact. Okay, so we have all this very detailed. We had all publications from everybody, all activities, and we came up with a typology, 4 big dimensions that were included, and we came up with 16 different categories of professors. You analyze it, it's a scientometric study. It's basically, for you to have an impact as a scholar in Brazil, you have to play a little bit of everything, right? You have to publish in good international journals, but you also have to publish in other journals. So there is this trade-off between quality and quantity, but you have to play both. You have to be involved in collaboration networks. So you have to do a little bit of everything so that you have an impact. So if you get among international scholars, if you fact that the top 10%, you have just a few Brazilian scholars in all disciplines that play the same league. Looking at the regional science perspectives, a study we did based when the regional economics lab, I think it was the 25th anniversary. There is a big international collaboration. Many Brazilians went to Illinois, they came back to Brazil, and they started, right, a network that helped, and our journals and our associations pretty much a result of this collaboration. So scholars came back and they started a process of multiplying the knowledge that they received in the US. What we see that the journal and this network, they helped to develop regional science in the country still further, to go to the peripheral areas, right? And the journal plays an important role in this. You see, Laura, when she invited me, she asked a very clear question: what role does the journal play in the country? I'll finish with some insights that I'm discussing with them. It's going to give an idea on the role of our journal. That is actually the website of the journal. You see, there is an English version of this website, but that's just, you know, when you're applying for different indexation, you have to do some checklist. You see that 90% of the publications are in Portuguese, and the publications that are cited are in Portuguese, right? And that's very important because in a previous study that my colleague Carlos Zazzoni did, until looking at the citation in economics until the late 90s, so pre-internet basically, he found out that those economists that published internationally, they were never cited, or had very little cited, right? And you had to publish in Brazil, on Brazil, to get some impact, right? So he came up with, basically what he used to say is that those that had a few that have American Economic Review, the top 5 econ journals, they were preaching in the desert, if you know what I mean, right? So they're not we're not reaching at that time people, but of course this changed a lot. These are some, that actually is 15 years of the journal already. Our association is roughly 20 years old. right? It used to be, we had 2 issues every year. Since 2017, now we have 4 issues, published 240 papers, almost 1,000 submissions, and we get for every 4 papers, 1 gets accepted to the journal. So that's the day. And this is the one very important thing, that most of the publications are co-authored. And usually, the first author is a student, and the second author is an advisor, right? And moreover, it reaches, we have a very high penetration there, and if you go get any ocean, you see that's relatively concentrated north. Of geographical expansion. These are from Google Scholar citations, right? We're not on Scopus, but you see that most of these are the top 10 papers. Everything is in Portuguese, right? You just don't see these nice papers that are from, we invite some international scholars. At the moment we thought, if we invite some international scholars, they may help to elevate. But no, people, this is not a very high-ranked journal, even in Brazil, but for the local regional science community, especially young editors. That's something I wanted to bring to you, because it's basically a volunteer work, right? Each edition costs roughly 1,000 euros. To have 2 editors that work for pro bono, and that's the cost of a production. We went online a few years ago, and actually it's very easy to raise this resource, but we rely a lot on people, on regional science members to make the journal work. So this is my final slide that try to answer the question that was raised by Laura. So what's the journal's role in the Brazilian academic ecosystem? First, it's a gateway for young researchers initiating an academic career. Usually, for many of the authors, that's their first publication, right? And it bringing a sense of belonging to the association, also very important. So I mentioned most of the papers are co-author, right? So usually you have a process. Usually the first author is a important because it helps in the learning process for this generation of scholars, right? They go through the publication, learn how to do that. Usually we have regional and national people that go to, let's say they went to page, probably there we go there, why don't you send a paper to our journal? So it helps to absorb some of these papers. I mentioned this sense of belonging that engages young scholars in the Brazilian Regional Science Association, and from a territorial perspective, it helps the connection in the peripheral areas of the country. So we have this role. It's like almost a social dimension of the journal that we don't have the goal to be a major international journal, but it's a need that we have within the society association in Brazil to help to promote science and engage young scholars in the profession. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo, for this interesting suggestion. Also, it is important the role that your journal played in promoting the diffusion of the research networks and results. Now, I would like to give the floor to Michaela, if you want to comment on previous presentation and share with us the strategies of the German speaking section journal.
Yes,
please.
So thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. So I didn't prepare a presentation, but I hope it will be fine anyway. So I think I'm part of this international, what you are doing. I think that Review of Regional Research has already started to do. Because I'm not from the German section, I'm Swedish. So I think part of their international work was to bring in additional editors that broaden the network of the journal. And so, I mean, hopefully, that's the plan at least. So we have 2 new editors that will then try to promote the journal in different areas, in different fields, in order to be very international. And also for our journal, it's they have moved away from having the German, the articles in German. Now we only have an abstract, and it's voluntary. So that's also moving away. So we do have we're pushing the English. I mean, we'd like, but that's a trade-off, I think, because you have a very strong Italian community, which I've had the pleasure to visit today, and I think that's a strength for you as well. And so, of course, it's a trade-off to be within 1 foot in the Italian community, and then 1 foot in the international, journal article. But I think the Review of Regional Research, we have moved away and tried to focus on the international. And of course, that has pros and cons. And I think that having this, that's a trajectory that you have to decide on, and also with the community, how you feel that they might follow you within the international and still be relevant for the Italian community, because it's also about the readership. You want to reach the Italian readership that perhaps is less, familiar with the English. You want to reach the right audience. So that's also a trade-off to have to make. And for us, that in Review of Regional Research, I want to dwell on we have Springer as a publisher. So we have a very established publisher. That's a positive thing, but we also, it's quite a lot of pressure as well. So we are challenged to get an impact factor, which is, of course, is something that we want to have. But in order to do that, we have to have a certain amount of issues each year and a certain amount of papers each year. And of course, you don't want to lower the quality just to have more papers. So what we are trying to do is exactly what you have, special issues. So we are really working with special issues and trying to attract different topics. And in that case, get more issues out and papers as well. And through that, we can get an impact factor. And with that comes a lot of other benefits. Because one of the challenges that we have, and I don't know if I share that with the board, is that we get a lot of submissions of rather low quality. And also for different countries are overrepresented in this. And lately, we have also received a lot of special issue calls. It has exploded for us. So we get like, I want to do a special issue on this, I want to do a special on that. And it's on various topics. It's not at all related to what we do. So it's just challenges to keep up with this as editors, to answer everything and to do the submissions on time. So that's, I think, a challenge that we meet. And the key is dedicated editors, which is pro bono, but and I think for you, perhaps that could be, I know, but it could be, we are now 4 in our journals, and just broadening the network to be more international. That was one, I'm of course biased because I'm one of those, but I think that was a nice way to get it started. I will leave it there, and then I can come back with other things, reflections.
Okay, thank you, Michaela. We know that in order to become more international, perhaps we need to enlarge our editorial boards. Sorry, excuse me. So, thank you, Michaela. We know that in order to become more international, perhaps we need to enlarge our editorial board, and with international researchers that can enlarge our network. You were right, we have a trade-off because our audience is Italian, but I think nobody has problem in reading English, of course. And our second goal is also to make international researcher known in Italian. So we have we are a sort of bridge between the international community and the Italian community. So I am also happy to know that what we are doing, you have already experimented with good success. Another main difference between our two journals is, if I well understood, also the reputation of the publishers. We have an Italian publisher, a very good Italian publisher. You have a German publisher with an international reputation, and this may make the difference, although this imply more work for you and more pressure.
I fully agree, and to have Springer is, of course, I mean, we're very grateful for that. I'm also thinking, I was thinking of that before this, but this massive growth of predatory journals is also a challenge and a threat, I think, for really good journals, but that have a publisher that perhaps is not, I mean, as well known.
Yeah.
So I think that, and I was thinking of that, how that could be, I mean, I have no solution to that, but I'm thinking that that could also be an additional challenge, especially for this type of journals.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Michaela. Now I give the floor to Daniela, which represents another regional science journal with maybe a strong national identity. Yeah, the microphone.
For the invitation, I'm really I'm really honored to be with you for such a special occasion, and sincere congratulations for your so successful 20-year journey with Scienze Regionali. Behind your great accomplishment, it is a huge amount of work which deserves to be commended, as the activity of the Italian Regional Science Association deserves to be praised. So congratulations, Roberta, Laura, Marco, and all your colleagues who succeeded to make all these things possible. I would say like association, like journal. So as a representative of the Romanian Journal of Regional Science, which celebrated 15 years of uninterrupted existence in 2021, I must confess that your journal, together with Investigaciones Regionales, represented two valuable sources of inspiration for our own journal, for our endeavors, for the establishment and development of our journal. So when our journal was launched in 2007, it somehow filled an empty place in Romania, because there was no journal with an explicit target on regional science, and I dare say at that moment there were few journals in Central and Eastern Europe with this profile. So our ambition was not only to make our journal a flagship journal of the Romanian Regional Science Association, but also to make it a credible support for the dissemination of regional science research from Central and Eastern Europe, and also to offer a bridge between East and West European regional science researchers. So how we followed these endeavors? We conceived our journal as an open access online journal in accordance with the Creative Commons license. It is produced, published by the Romanian Regional Science Association exclusively in English, so there are similarities and you will see dissimilarities with the other journals with no financial costs. So the whole editing and technical assistant work is a voluntary work. The only support we receive from outside is the hosting service offered by the Bucharest University of Economic Studies with one of its servers because, well, it's a gesture of kindness. Most let's say not most, but a big share of members in the Romanian Regional Science Association come from Bucharest University of Economic Studies, by the way, my own university. But this doesn't come with any obligation of any kind on our behalf. So we are a completely independent journal. We are included only in the portfolio, or in the journal portfolio of the European Regional Science Association and the Regional Science Association International. For the editing team, we have sought from the very beginning to give an international dimension. So apart from the Romanian editors, we have editors from other regional science associations, from Austria, so from the German-speaking association, from Poland, from Hungary, from Italy, Netherlands, Portugal, and the International Advisory Board has a true worldwide coverage. A lot of top regional scientists have kindly accepted to be in our International Advisory Board. Considering our limited resources, we have only 2 issues per year, the summer issue and the winter issue, and this was a very valuable advice on behalf of Professor Quadrado Roura. I remember like yesterday when I was talking with him about the establishment of our journal, and we were thinking at the time to have 3 issues per year, and she said, listen to me, 2 are enough, so just start with 2 and it will be the best option, and he was true. So we owe a lot to Professor Quadrado Roura for his advice. Our journal ensure a double blind peer review with a very clearly established publication ethics. No fees are required for any purpose, for processing, for publication, for reviewing, so is completely free of charge. As regards the content and the quality, we raised the bar very high from